Last year, on the 1st of December, we sat down with our 5-year-old daughter, Katie, to help her compose her letter to Santa. This annual tradition was much beloved in my own childhood, and we had begun doing it with Katie 2 years ago when she was 4. That year she gleefully dictated a list of toys and clothes and fictional creatures she wanted. The year before, having started kindergarten, Katie insisted on composing the letter herself. Such a smart little girl. Anyways, I tell whoever reads this, the story is both a coping mechanism and a cautionary tale. I don't think we have seen the last of this nightmare. And as Christmas approaches, once again I grow ever more nervous. After writing the list of material goods she desired, she scrawled to Santa on the front of the envelope, or at least she tried to. What she actually wrote was to Satan. I thought it was hilarious. While my wife, Sam, was torn between amusement and horror, I talked her into letting me send it as is, just to make the mailman laugh. I also posted it on Reddit, and got a tidy sum of karma for it on r/kids are effing stupid. I deleted the post, so please don't look for it. Anyways, off it went, out of sight, out of mind, and then an answer came, December 4th, oddly soon for a letter to be received in reply to another, given it takes about 48 to 72 hours each way. But that's entirely besides the point. The brief interval between sending the letter and the reply is the least weird thing about all this. The answer arrived, addressed to Katie and bearing a postmark from the North Pole. At first I thought it was going to be some cute form letter sent out by the post office to all Santa letter senders. I sat Katie down on my lap and we opened it together. I began to read. Dear Katie, I have received your letter. I wish to assure you my elves are hard at work making all the things on your list. They are working especially hard on the unicorn bedspread you asked for. It is here that I paused a moment. Her name, specific items from her list. If this was a form letter, someone at the post office went to a great deal of effort to include specific details regarding each recipient. It struck me as unlikely. It was handwritten too, or appeared to be. Upon closer inspection I concluded it definitely was. It wasn't a cursive type font, but an actual handwritten letter. I decided perhaps it was a relative, or a friend that my wife brought in as a little holiday merriment. I didn't recognize the handwriting. I continued reading, intrigued. However, I am sad to say that you are presently on my naughty list. Not to worry, you still have time to get onto the nice list, and all your gifts are still being made. But if you fail to move over to the nice list, your gifts will be given to other children instead. I stopped reading here as Katie had grown quite anxious. Why am I on the naughty list? I've been good, haven't I? She asked, a tear starting to form in her beautiful green eyes. I kissed her on the cheek. Of course you have, sweetie. You've been very good. I am sure Santa just made a mistake. This wasn't right. Nobody I knew would be this cruel to a child. It wasn't a scared, straight type of gambit either. Katie had almost no behavior issues. She really was an angel. Honey, do you know of anyone who'd send us a prank letter from Santa? We got a weird one here. And now Katie is upset. It knows what's on her Christmas list, I say, so she could hear from the other room. No, I can't think of anyone who would do that. Maybe one of her cousins, but how would they know what's on her list? Sam asked, stepping into the room and picking up Katie, who was still upset. With Katie safely removed from further trauma, I set to finishing the letter with concern, intending to get to the bottom of this mean joke. Remember, Katie, I see you when you're sleeping. I know when you're awake. I know if you've been bad or good. And you have been a very bad little girl, haven't you? I know all about what you did to your baby brother. Nearly drowning him in the bathtub like that was very naughty. You're lucky your mom saved him, or else you'd have been on the naughty list for life. Here once again I stopped reading. My heart was pounding, and I tasted bile. My hands began to shake. My eyes darted around the room nervously. William, her 4-month-old baby brother, had nearly drowned about a month prior to this. Somehow he managed to slip out of his bathtub harness during a 30-second period of unsupervision. Sam felt awful, beat herself up about it for weeks. The bathtub harness was meant to keep the baby upright so that the parent could turn their backs for short moments without fear of drowning. We had assumed it was a freak accident that he managed to get out of the harness. Or perhaps one of the straps wasn't snapped properly. Whoever had sent this letter seemed to think it was Katie that had done it. Unthinkable. She loved her baby brother. She wouldn't be capable of such premeditated malice. But how would they know? We hadn't told another living soul. We chose to keep the incident quiet, because no harm had been done and it was a painful memory for Sam. Angry now as well as frightened, I continued on. There is only one way to make right such a serious act of naughtiness. Next time you're in the bath, you must try to drown yourself. If your mommy or daddy save you, you will have learned your lesson. If you die, you'll be moved onto my nice list and go to heaven where your gifts will be waiting for you. Hoping you make the right choice, Santa. Upon finishing the demonic letter, I rushed to the kitchen sink and vomited. I collapsed to my knees and started to sob. The letter was clenched tight in my fist, partially crumpled. Sam rushed to my aid. Sam's child. Sweetie, what happened? Are you all right? Take this thing, burn it, but don't read it. Don't ever read it, I said, holding out the letter in a shaking hand. She took the letter with apprehension. She helped me to my feet. What happened? Are we in danger? She asked. I don't know. Next time Katie takes a bath, do not let her out of your sight. She blinked. She looked down at the letter, but I snatched it back. Do not read it, I repeated. In an act of impulse, I crumbled it into a ball, stuffed it down the drain, and turned on the garbage disposal. Honey, what was in that letter? She demanded. Evil. Somehow they know about what happened with William in the bath. I answered plainly, unable to give voice to those dreadful words that followed. She impatiently turned the disposal off. I'm going to take the kids to my mom's house. Whoever sent that knows where we live. I nodded. Go. I will remain here in case they come back. My guess is they stole her letter out of our mailbox and then wrote that awful reply. How they know about the bath incident is beyond me. Gently ask Katie if she's told anyone, and try to think of anyone you may have told, even anonymously. And above all, do not let Katie be alone in the bathtub for any amount of time. If they know so much, we can't be certain they haven't contacted Katie some other way, or will do so soon. I said, what's so important about watching her in the bath? She's been bathing mostly on her own for a few months, unless you think she's gonna. Her face blanched. She clutched the sink rim for support, breathing heavily. If you get any more letters, don't read them. Call me, I said. 20 minutes later, the kiddos were seated in the car, a change of clothes packed, stroller and diaper bag loaded, and about to leave. Daddy, am I in trouble? Katie asked from her booster seat. William was next to her in his car seat. I was leaning through the open passenger door to give her a kiss. No, sweetie, not at all. You're my little angel, and I love you very much. I kissed her on the cheek and closed the door. I watched as Sam drove them away. I paced around the house, thinking, agitated. I contemplated the police, but the evidence was in tatters and covered in grimy water and vomit. Besides, no threats had actually been made, only accusations and suggestion. I wandered aimlessly into Katie and William's bedroom, whereupon my heart stopped. Several letter blocks, the kind kids used to build words, were sitting on top of their dresser, out of Katie's reach. Let her die, they said. In a state of panic now, I lurched towards my gun safe. Every shadow was a terror, every sound a nightmare. They were inside our house, or had been very recently. There was no chance Sam would have missed them while she was packing their clothes for the trip. I fumbled with the safe controls until at last I had my gun in hand, a 6-shooter revolver, a .38 snub nose to be specific, an everyday gun for home and personal defense. Who are you? I shouted into the empty house. What do you want? I checked every room and every closet. Gun pointed ahead of me. Not a soul was to be found. I calmed somewhat, but by no means was I in a good state. Doorbell camera and alarm records came up negative. No signs of forced entry. I checked these things again and again. Whoever it was had been in and out quietly and quickly and left no trace. It didn't make sense. I spent the day and night watching our mailbox from the upstairs window, watching to see if anyone visited it. Not a soul. I periodically walked the house, gun in hand, checking every door and window and confirming nobody was in the house. Around 9 p.m. Sam called me. The kids are asleep. My folks are worried. They don't really understand what's happening because neither do I. I took the kids here because you were terrified. But now I need the whole and complete truth. She said. She was right. In a monotone voice, I told her exactly what was in the letter. She did not say anything at first. When she spoke, it was in a frightened voice. After a pregnant pause, I never told anyone, not even online anonymously. I asked Katie, but she wouldn't give me a straight answer. She eventually confessed she told a friend, but wouldn't say which friend. You don't think she actually? No, I said emphatically. She wouldn't. Somehow they found out about the bath incident. And they are inventing the fiction that Katie did it to hurt us. For what reason, I don't know. Try to sleep. I know it will be hard, but staying awake all night won't help. I hear your tiredness. Lock the doors, set the alarm, unlock the gun, then sleep. She said, I will try. Take care of the kids. And I will call you first thing in the morning. Good night. I love you. Good night. I hung up. I did not tell her about the blocks. That would only terrify her. Maybe I should have. Put her on her guard. Whoever did this knew us. They could easily have known where my in-laws lived. And whoever it was had to be a skilled burglar. I called my father-in-law, Donald, and him I confided that there had been evidence of danger. He agreed not to tell Sam, as she needed to be a mommy that kept the kids calm, and she'd be likely to panic if she knew the full truth. He agreed to keep vigil through the night, for which I was very grateful, and thanked him profusely. I didn't sleep. How could I? Someone contacted us with knowledge they shouldn't have, made a dreadful accusation, and suggested my 5-year-old daughter commit suicide. Then, they somehow snuck into our house and arranged Katie's letter blocks to say let her die. I pledged that if anything else like this occurred, I would call the police, even though they would likely call us crazy. The next morning, I got a call at sunrise from Sam. I looked at my buzzing phone, terrified. Something happened. I just knew it. Why else would she be calling this early? With shaking hands, I answered it. Hey honey, are the kids all right? They're fine. But something has happened. My heart rate quickened. My mouth went dry. I didn't speak, letting my pause demonstrate my terror. There's a present here, a gift, under the Christmas tree. It wasn't there yesterday, and neither of my folks put it there. We think it was whoever sent the letter. It's addressed to Katie from Santa. Do not open it. Of course not. We will, but not when Katie is present, and only when everyone is here. Get here as quick as you can. Someone is stalking us. Stalking the whole family. On my way. I must have broken half a dozen traffic laws on the way. When I arrived, I found the family in a predictably agitated state. I kept watch, but somehow the son of a gun slipped by me. Donald said privately after I had hugged and kissed my wife and kids. He got by me too. Don't blame yourself, I said, patting him on the shoulder. The gift was in gold-colored wrapping paper and topped with a blood-red bow. It was slightly larger than a shoebox and not especially heavy. I inspected the tag. I realized what the others had not at first, that it folded open like a greeting card, held shut by a sticker around the edge. On the front it said to Katie from Santa. On the inside the tag had a shorthand written message. How did we miss that? My mother-in-law, Susie, said, peering over my shoulder. Please go and entertain the kids for a moment. I don't want Katie to overhear. I suspect what we are about to read will frighten us all. I replied to her. She nodded and hurried upstairs to the guest room where the kids were. Dear Katie, since our meeting last night went so well, I have given you this gift as reward for agreeing to my instructions. Here I paused. Meeting. He was in our house and spoke to Katie while I was downstairs watching the front door. Donald said, I'm gonna be sick. Sam said, following instructions. What does that mean? My father-in-law asked. I'll tell you later, there's more to the note. Clearing my throat, I carried on. Don't open it until Christmas, and remember, if you die, it will be waiting for you in heaven just like I promised. There came a scream from upstairs, Susie's shrill and panicked voice. Katie, no. In a state of supreme terror, I led the way up the stairs, my wife and father-in-law thundering along behind me. Susie was screaming the entire time, and doing so triggered William to start crying from his crib, creating a cacophony when combined with our booming footsteps and Susie's continued panicked screams. She was in the upstairs bathroom, clutching Katie, who was naked and dripping wet and limp in her arms. In the future, I would remember the scene as a perverse version of the Pieta, a sobbing woman holding the limp body of her child in a kneeling position. Sam screamed and Donald collapsed to his knees. I crashed into the bathroom and took my daughter into my arms. Her eyes were shut, and her lips and face were blue. She was face down in the tub. She can't have been alone for more than 5 minutes. I didn't know she would. Susie wailed, unable to continue. Sam collapsed into a hysterical fit beside her father. I frantically banged on Katie's back, hoping to expel the water from her lungs. She has a pulse, Susie said while I pounded. She had her hand on her limp wrist. Come on, Katie, come on. Breathe, I begged. Tears were falling down my face. Then at last, just when I thought all hope had been lost, she coughed and expelled a great deal of water from her lungs and began to breathe. Oh, thank God. I moaned and clutched her little body tightly, hugging her as I never have before. Daddy, I'm on the nice list again, she said weakly as I held her. Oh, sweetie, why did you do that? Why? Never mind, let's get you dressed. And then we are going to the hospital. I wrapped a towel around her to give her a little dignity in a bathroom full of people. Honey, Mom, I think Dad is dead, Sam said quietly. What? I asked. I stood with Katie now covered and held securely in my arms, and turned my attention to my father-in-law. He was where he collapsed, in the hall outside the bathroom, laying in the same spot he was when he first saw his granddaughter's nearly lifeless body being held in his wife's arms. He's not breathing, she said, holding her father's hand. Susie wailed once more and jumped to her husband's side. She and her daughter began frantically trying to rouse him while looking for signs of life at the same time. Donald lay quite still, unresponsive to the two women looking for any sign that he had not shuffled off this mortal coil. He has no pulse, Susie said. Mom, he's gone, Sam said. I watched as they descended into tears of grief and panic. Katie was awake, but quiet throughout all of this. I carried her to the guest bedroom so she wouldn't have to witness this. She had nearly died, and now her grandpa had passed all within moments. I decided it was best to remove her from the situation. I left the two women to their grief and took her into the bedroom where her brother was still crying. I got her dressed and put her to sleep. The hospital could wait. She appeared to be all right, or at the very least no longer in immediate peril. Her pulse was strong and her breathing regular. I calmed William as well and sat on the end of Katie's bed and kept a somber vigil over my children. Hours later, the dust of the morning had settled. The cause had been determined. Massive heart attack. That was our assumption, but the authorities confirmed it. The panic had no doubt triggered it. He had a history of heart problems, and his granddaughter nearly drowning had done him in. Katie wouldn't speak to any of us except in one word, evasive replies. I gently tried to probe her on the event, why she had done it, if she had spoken with anyone during the night, but I made no progress. I decided to leave her be. The poor thing was traumatized. As the authorities wheeled Don's body out on a stretcher, I stood with Sam in the living room. We watched the event unfold somberly. Susie was with the kids as she had been unable to bring herself to watch them moving Don's body. She was determined to correct what she perceived as her mistake in almost allowing Katie to drown, and insisted on taking the first watch in a vigil that was now to be constant and uninterrupted. We had assured her she was not to blame, but there was no convincing her. I noticed ash on the carpet around the hearth and near the adjacent tree. This drew my attention to the fireplace, where I also noticed the grate in the firebox was askew. He came down the chimney. Whoever it was, I said quietly. Sam clutched my arm. Should we open it? She asked with her eyes on the present. Yes, I think we need to play their game for now. We don't know if that gift is dangerous or not. We took it to the kitchen table. I unwrapped it with much apprehension. It was the unicorn bedspread, exactly like the one she had asked for, a comforter with a unicorn embroidered onto the front and depicted amidst a field of stars and planets. It's beautiful, Sam said as I unfolded it and spread it out for us to see. We aren't giving it to Katie. Hopefully she will forget all about it, I said. She nodded. Look, she pointed to the bottom, near one of the unicorn's hooves. I turned the blanket around. Yet another message was embroidered there. One death, one life. Welcome back to the nice list, Katie. I'll see you again next Christmas. It said. That's 11 days away now, and every time I check the mail my heart beats a little faster. I sincerely hope this chapter is the only chapter in the Two Satans saga. but in my heart I know there is more still to come.